Hello and welcome to Imperfect Parenting Podcast. We are here again, you and I. We're just hanging out.
We're back.
Looking into each other's
Your
eyes.
Your favorite thing.
Uh-huh.
To do with me.
And Ashley, who's here.
Ashley's here as well.
So, hi, Ashley.
She's just, hello, she said. She's just making it work.
She is.
This wouldn't happen without her
It's true.
being here.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to, just reminds me of
That's it.
Seth Dahl's favorite part of this podcast.
Oh, okay.
The memes.
I don't know how you got there.
I tried to make a cool segue. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
You didn't work with me. You're supposed to help me.
Well, it didn't make sense.
It's too late. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay, well.
So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Meme time.
Yep.
You should go look at this one because it's clever. I'm going to read the words first and then describe the picture.
Okay.
It says, please hold my hand and walk next to me.
That's the parent.
Every parent says this at some point, especially when crossing the street.
Uh-huh.
But often when the child's throwing a fit, having a hard time, skip to the picture that says the kid. And the picture is these very amazing ice figure skaters, it looks like. Except what's happening is there's the man who's kind of upright with the woman who's almost vertical on the ice. Looks like he's dragging her along.
A little bit.
And if you've ever parented a toddler, you've experienced this where it feels like we went from walking along, holding your hand, to I feel like I'm dragging you because you are throwing a fit, having a hard time.
Or you want the flower that we walked past.
Totally.
Or you thought you saw a gum or a piece of
Reaching.
candy and you're now acrobatically trying to reach backwards. Or that, when you do 1, 2, 3 and they jump and you swing up in the air and
Okay, that's fun.
But there's only one parent, that doesn't really work. And that's kind of what that reminds me
All those
of.
things.
Your kid thinks that you're doing it and your arm's just being yanked out of your socket.
Yeah.
So
That's fine.
yeah, that's kind of how that one goes. But yeah, so there's our meme
Yep.
for you, your enjoyment. We had a lot of questions that came in. If you've been listening to this month, we released the conference pre-recorded ones that we did with Seth, and we had 2, which was fun. And we did some questions, but we didn't get to all of the questions. And so we thought we'd make this one answering all the questions or as many of them that we had left over from the conference that we couldn't get to. So Seth's not here, so you just have the 2 of us. You're just going to have to trust us. And we're going to jump into questions.
That's it. Cool. So it's kind of another continuation of the conference.
Yes.
So as
We're
Brittany
just
said,
celebrating the conference.
We
if
are.
you've gotten my book, I will just do a selfish plug right here. If you've gotten my book from Amazon or Audible, you could give me a review if you like it. I mean, I'd love to know if you like it. I do look at them occasionally. So
we like lots of stars.
or the podcast. If you like the podcast, you should also review the podcast and give the 5 stars. As Lincoln says, 5, 10 stars or 2 thumbs up. Or I don't remember what he says in my book, how he says it. It's like
10. Truth, I don't know.
It's something like
encouraging.
It's something 10 out of 10 recommend. That's what he says.
Yeah.
So if you give a 10 out of 10 recommend, we'd love for you to help us out.
And to our faithful listeners who've been here long before I was on
Back
Coffee Kids and Crazy,
old
Imperfect
school
Parenting.
with Derek.
Yep. This has been growing too. The numbers are going up. So there's people listening, enjoying this.
It's fun. It's been fun.
Let us know.
Yeah.
It's fun. So, first question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask it, and then you or we can answer it.
We should do it together.
Hi there. That's how it
Hi,
starts.
how are you?
Whoever you are that wrote this question. Your input on an alternative to how many times to ask your child to do something. So, every parent's experienced that. I asked you once, I asked you twice, I asked you again, thrice, 4.
Do the dishes,
Yep.
do the dishes, do the dishes, do the dishes. Did you do the dishes? Yeah. I mean,
You're about to start singing there.
no, we had a hard stop. I mean, this is where I say, I give clear expectations. The other day I had a meeting and the dishes needed to be done. And I said, I just want you to know that when I come back down, I expect the dishes to be done. Because it was kind of like everyone could see them, but somehow the children forget that that's their responsibility. And I came back down and they were done, which is great. I have had times where I come back down and they're not done. And I just do them and I say no problem. and then I trade them chores. So that's one way, which can work. Sometimes that's not an option for parents, I think. The other thing I like to do is I like to have conversation is how do you think it feels when I ask you to do the dishes and you don't do them? Or I feel like I have to ask you over and over again. Do you think that I'm experiencing you as respectful or not? What message do you want to send to me? How could you send that message differently? I ask questions at that point to kind of give some feedback as this is not fun. And then sometimes I use examples like, what if you told me you were hungry for dinner and I heard you, but then I didn't do anything? And then you came and asked me again, are we doing dinner? And be like, yeah, and I didn't do anything. I mean, not that they couldn't feed themselves, but, I'm usually making dinner for everybody. So would that feel disrespectful if I say I'm going to do it and then I don't do it and I don't do it and I don't do it? I said, that's the experience. Yeah. And as they get older, you can have a little bit more dialogue. And it's not, I would say, away from lecturing where the lecture starts to happen when you are not asking questions, but just telling. So I would invite questions. That's usually an indicator. Am I lecturing or am I asking good questions? So those are my thoughts on that. First off.
Yeah. I think the thing I would just add to encourage parents and remind parents is to have a plan. Mm-hmm. So there's probably that certain chore that they often avoid or you feel like it's your job to remind them. And I would go with a plan on, okay, if I'm not going to keep asking them, what's my plan on the other side of a choice, on the other side of a question? Mm-hmm. So if I give them a choice, like, hey, do you want to finish the dishes or should I? No problem, because I have a plan. I know what happens now if you decided that. I got to do the dishes, and then we trade chores later. Mm-hmm. And, they may be upset and whatever, but I have a plan, which is very different to my only plan is you do the dishes.
Yeah.
And so I just keep asking you, so this plan gets completed.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted, mad, frustrated, and in this constant washing machine cycle.
Mm-hmm. Another great one is feel free to play video games, play outside, go see your friends, watch TV, get a snack as soon as blank is done.
If you're not driving right now, you should write that one down. If you are driving, take a mental note.
Feel free
to. Yep. As soon as.
That's
helpful.
That's what we love.
Yep.
Okay. Next question. How do you balance parenting and career? Ben, how do you do it?
Carefully.
We might need more than that.
It's a balancing act. I think the thing for me is, I can't think of his name right now. The guy who wrote Boundaries, not Henry Cloud, Townsend, I think. He wrote a book on really needs. But he used this word, and it's not his word, but he just really dug into it about learning to attune to the people around you. I think that's the thing that I've worked on and tried to get better and better at over the years. It is learning to attune to my children and my wife. That's you. Mm-hmm. So there's things that I'm doing on purpose. There is boundaries I'm setting in place to protect family time, to protect even career. Because that can go the other way as well. Is I give all my time to family, and then work starts to suffer. So there is this balance. But the thing for me is actually learning to attune while I'm doing all the things, protecting, driving them to their sports things and youth group and all that. I'm attuning to how are you doing, what do you need, where are we at? Mm-hmm. And so I essentially just taking the temperature throughout the week to check in to see, is there something needing from me that I'm either unaware of or I'm missing if I don't actually check in?
Mm-hmm. Which I would say that question is, what do you need? Mm-hmm. There's been times where you have a more social calendar than I do, typically. And so you will have different things happening in the evenings. And the kids will say to me, like, where's dad? When is he coming home? Where's he been? And it's in those moments I get to give feedback like,
Great
hey,
information.
I don't know if you realize, but the kids have noticed that you've been gone 4 nights in a row.
Dang it.
And the adjustment is usually, okay, what can I do tonight? And what can I do to protect so that doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row? Sometimes, it's work stuff or it's stuff that's great for you and that you need for your sanity, and I'm all for it. And sometimes the kids just have to absorb it and it's going to be okay because they didn't have anything for those 4 nights. It ebbs and flows. But the adjustment would be, okay, I can't continue this pattern because it will impact my relationship. And that's the thing that I want to protect the most is my relationship. So my response to this is, as a working mom, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and she's a executive pastor and travels and speaks. And she was texting me, asking how the book's going and different things. And so we're talking back and forth about different stuff that are coming up for me, more activity than I normally have as far as speaking and events. And then my response to her, book translating into different language, different stuff, all fun. She's actually in a different state speaking. And I said, all of that, but all I can think about is how our daughter is graduated and about to leave and move out, go to school in a different city. And there's a boy that she's talking to. This is the life of a ministry mom, is that I have all these really fun, feel very honored to have permission, authority, and influence in, but all I can think about is my home.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm actually watching videos of my toddler right now and feel the same way. This tension of, I know I'm called to this, I'm leading here, I am meant to be out here, but man, my heart is so here. And I think the balance comes in, do I have space for feedback when there needs to be an adjustment?
Yeah.
Or do I think that this career is what is more important than my family? I had a season of depression a couple years ago now, but I was trying to do homeschool on my own, and our kids were younger, and do all the things here at Loving and Purpose. And I felt like a failure because I felt like my kids were failing, which is far more important than any career that I have. They take priority. And it wasn't until I kind of had honest conversations with everyone here in the office, like, I can't do it all like this. So we needed something to change. And then it became okay, you're not on the front of the rocket, Brittany. You're going to take a back seat at Loving on Purpose and focus on the kids, because that is the most important thing. And so I think the balancing comes to, can you have real conversations with what's your capacity?
Yeah, that's good.
And do you allow feedback from your kids to happen?
Yeah.
So.
Because they have the best information experience.
They do.
True. All right. Next one. This is a good one. What does it look like to move from a house of control to a house of connection? Some practical tips, please, Miss Brittany.
Well, get ready to clean up your mess. Mm-hmm. I think that's how I would just get ready. Because if you are a controlling household, you, in the process, probably make lots of messes because you give lots of orders, and you have high expectations, and you have high needs, and probably not a lot of room for anyone else's. And I say that in the most loving way because I am a control freak, so I know. It's my way. Like, this is how I've planned it. This is how I designed it. This is how I think I should go. So when I don't invite or empower my kids in the process, I try and control it, which typically can feel really disrespectful for them. So moving from that place of control is, what is it that I'm needing? Because I need something, and control is how it's manifesting. Mm-hmm. So I need the house to feel clean. Okay. And my way of controlling that is by, demanding everybody do all of these things, withholding all of the fun until I get this need met. which then starts to feel like you live with a dictator. I'm all for chores, and we do that. But it feels different when it's a command rather than an invitation to empower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's one of the things to consider as well is behind control is often scared as well. And so even taking a look at what am I scared of here? Mm-hmm. Because if I can begin to address that and then practice all the tools of connection, all the love languages and the leaning in, the spending quality time together to build that, the fear may not go away, but I have a plan to address it now. Mm-hmm. There's certain things we're scared of as parents especially, that you may turn out like I did. You may make the same mistakes that I did. You may. But just paying attention to, can I identify the thing that's scaring me, mm-hmm. and then begin to move in the opposite spirit and not let that thing become my counselor. Because when that's my counselor, the first thing I want to do is control.
Yeah. And if you've got little kids and, you're trying to get them out the door, you're trying to have a house that has somewhat of order, dinner at a decent hour, naps, I think setting yourself up for success, especially if you've got some needs, you probably need to give yourself a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to get out the door with your toddler who moves like a sloth and you only leave 5 minutes, well, you're setting yourself up for failure. You've got to give yourself 20 minutes. And we start the process of, do you want to pick out your outfit or do you want mommy to pick out your outfit? Okay, you decide or I decide. Okay, mommy's going to pick it out. Do you want this outfit or this outfit? I still give choices there. Okay, you don't want to decide. I'm going to choose. And so if I had to fight you along the way, but I've empowered you in all these choices, that's probably the very beginning in the early stages of when they're not used to you doing any of this. But the choices and empowerment are trying to share this control, because you can share control or you can lose control.
There you go.
And so I have to be willing to share it. Well, if you've got a young child that doesn't understand how to do this very well, give yourself lots of runway. Otherwise, you're really frustrated. Then you jump in and you're just yanking and pulling and wrestling them to the ground to get in the car, and you've blown up connection. You're frustrated at them. They're crying because they feel so violated, and they're angry that they didn't get any say. And then all of a sudden, that's where our shame and regret starts to settle in, because I just violated you in my need for control. Yeah. But I needed to get to your doctor's appointment. But I didn't do a good job of giving myself enough time so I could practice empowering you even at 2 with questions. What's the boundary? I think that's the other piece, is there's going to have boundaries in this, and those are great. But what's the boundary? The boundary is that we have to leave at 8:55. Okay. Knowing your personality, this is going to take a lot longer. Like, Delaney was just so much harder to get out the door. She's still so much harder to get out the door. Adeline, not as hard. Lincoln, not as hard. So I learned what it is that I needed to adjust. Yep. And it's the same today. Like, okay, we have to leave at 10:30 to get to church on time. What time is it? Okay, we need to wake everybody up because they're sleeping in on a Sunday or whatever. And because it's going to take you this long, you this long, you this long. Okay, if I actually want to leave at this time. Now it's different because Delaney can drive. I just say bye. But, that's part of this, is set yourself up for success by knowing what it is that you need, and then empower. The more that we practice empowerment, the more our kids learn, okay, we get to share this. We get to get a dance. And I don't remember the other day, Lincoln gave a choice. I don't remember what it was, but it was just funny because this is what he's used to, is he knows that he has choices, and he's 11, but he's talking in choices. Do you want this or this? And that's because he learned it when he was 2. Yep. And he knows the value of feeling empowered, and he knows that he's a powerful person. And when you don't get a choice, how does it feel? It feels like I'm being controlled. That's not a very fun feeling. I don't like how that feels. Nobody likes how that feels. But if that becomes our normal, then we actually go searching for it. Someone control me. And this is how we develop powerless people, is we just teach that you either are the one that controls other people, or you're the one that other people control. Yep. And that's not what we want. Hey, it's Brittany here. I'm normally on the Kylo Show, yes, but I wrote a book. I wrote a book for parents, but I talk a lot about moms. So if you're listening to this and you're a mom who's frustrated, who feels like you're failing, who feels hopeless in this game of parenting that we're in. So if that's you, mom, buy yourself this gift on Mother's Day. It's going to be worth it. So I hope that you feel blessed and encouraged by my new book, Imperfect Parenting. You can find it at imperfectparenting.co.
And just come back to that comment you made earlier about the share control. Learn to share control. You're going to lose it. I guess you use it. You're going to lose control if you don't learn to share it. I think that piece right there feels so important because this is often the fear of parents, is I'm going to lose influence. I'm going to lose this deep connection that I so long for with my child. But I didn't have a plan, and I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't use the tools. So I just try and control you, but really, it's not real. I don't control anybody.
Well, even you started with influence, but a lot of parents live in the illusion that they have influence, but they just think that they have control. And they don't actually have either.
And so what happens?
They're using fear.
Using fear, exactly. And intimidation. But they want influence.
Yes.
But the where this goes is I lose control because my child wakes up one day and goes, wait a minute. I don't have to do what you say. I can do whatever I want. And the illusion of influence walks out the door with them or walks out the heart-to-heart connection. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the most heartbreaking things to watch parents go through that. Doesn't mean you can't get it back, and you can't clean a mess up and solve it and go from control to connection, change the household. But I think that's just an important piece to pause on again.
So. To talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Again, it changes in your house of control when you've got teenagers or middle school or even late elementary. But the practical piece would be set yourself up for success. Parent with a plan is a powerful parent. How good are you at sending empowerment messages to your kids? Are you asking good questions? Do they understand what it is that you need? If I say clean room, does it match what I've got in my head with what it has in your head? Because 100% of the time, no, it doesn't. If I just say that. And what is the boundary that I need to keep? Because that's often the thing that we feel violated in, is that our boundary that we needed to protect doesn't get protected, which we default into control, fear, and punishment, all that. So those are the practicals I'd be looking for in this. And again, clean up your mess. When you overstep and you jump into controlling, barking at orders, or angry, or any of that, you get to own it and you get to lead. And we are changing and prioritizing connection. And connection should be really, really loud. Connection should be something that you're pursuing and protecting. And are you doing that? How are you doing it? Do you know how to do that? The love languages are a great place to start. Yeah. Are you prioritizing, spending time with them, getting to know them? We had the kids on the Kylo Show. They took it over, a couple months ago. And I said, what would you tell parents? And their biggest thing over and over again was to know them. Spend time with them. And so that's a form of connection. And there's a lot more grace that our kids have for us, especially if we're willing to lead in humility.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well said.
Thanks. All right. You should do it. I should do it. Okay. Well, we had a lot of fun with this topic not very long ago. It got so many views. It was hilarious. I don't fight on Instagram. I don't know if you realize that. I'm never going to fight on Instagram because I think it's immature. There, I said it. So here it is: spanking or no spanking? It's not an uncommon question we get, and
almost every time.
Yeah, I would say every time in parenting, and you don't have to spank your kid.
Nope.
I didn't ever say you had to.
Totally.
Okay, let's just start right there. I didn't ever say you had to spank your kid. I spanked our kids. I probably could count on one hand how many times Lincoln got spanked. We definitely got better and better.
Half a hand.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I mean, I was with him more, so maybe it was just full hand, fingers. I don't really know how you count that. Anyways, so we did spanking. We've talked about this before. If you want a good hoot and holler, go watch the video. But it is spanking is the last tool we ever used.
Yeah.
Especially as we got better at using all the other tools.
Yep.
I feel like I need to repeat myself because apparently nobody listens in that other video.
Right.
But it's funny.
It is funny.
It's the last tool that we used. It wasn't the first one, and we never beat our child. We weren't abusive.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that's the problem. And it was a choice. You know, the funny thing is a lot of the comments about spanking is that how can it be a choice? Well, it's the same kind of thing as if I ask my kid, you know, do you want to get your shoes on or sit in your room until you're ready to get your shoes on? It's kind of the same choice, and they would choose. It's really about empowering them, and it again is the last resort. Anytime that we did use it, I don't think that spanking should be your first tool. And anytime that I meet with parents that have it as the default and they're like, it's not working, I'm like, well, yeah, I bet. Because that's probably
your only tool.
It's the only tool, and it's not a very good tool to be the one you're leading with. It is the last tool when they're out of control and they're going to hurt themselves. They're going to put a hole in the drywall. And then we're talking that to a certain point. I mean, there's definitely an age where you stop spanking.
Yes.
And a lot of parents don't know how to do this and not be completely full of rage and anger and using it as punishment and intimidation. We didn't do it as that.
No.
It was, and I wouldn't do it if I knew that that was in my heart. I had to figure out what I was going to do with me to calm myself down so I could actually use a tool that was helpful. So again, you don't have to spank your child. Nope. I know people that don't, and it's been great for them. I know people that don't, and I would say personally, your kid's no fun to be around. But I don't think that you do the other tools very well either. Mm-hmm. The goal of spanking for me was always, can you manage getting yourself under control? Yep. Or do you need my help? Yep. Now, our children have never confused the word help in their lives as mom's going to spank me. It was, I'm going to help you kind of snap out of this moment. Yep. And it was done in a space of choice. And then, do you need more help? Or are you able to control yourself? I don't think I've ever had to do it more than once, like that moment. And it was, I love you. Let's have a conversation. Do you want a hug? Do you want some space? It was all around the context of staying connected, but setting a hard boundary of this behavior, out of control, hitting, punching, throwing things, whatever it is, out of control behavior. Let me help you get back into control of yourself. Do you need more help? And again, the better we got at all the other tools and learning how to diffuse these moments before they escalated, like that's the other part of this tool is that we got to use empowerment, choices. We got so much better at all the other things. Mm-hmm. Spanking got further and further away as a resource, which is why Delaney got the bulk of it. And guys, I'm sitting here today. The joke is that I have a cord of wood in my butt from how much spanking I had as a child, and I survived. I don't have wounds from spanking. Mostly, I mean, I should, because early days of spanking was definitely out of anger, but it changed. And the tools that we have now around it, it's so far from punishment and anger. And if I'm not okay, I won't use that because I know better. Because then I am being a punisher. But that's just...
You covered all my thoughts.
Yeah, well, you should give some thoughts because you say it differently than I do.
I was sitting there thinking, yeah, there's that. Okay, she said that. Yeah, there's that. Okay, she said that. It's great.
I was on a rant.
We should get married. But
We are.
we are married almost 20 years.
I know. It's been a long time.
People look at this video and go, no way.
Yes, it's true.
20 years. We started when we were 12. But
When we no longer were spanked. Sorry.
I have memory of my mother chasing me around one of those little like exercise trampolines, trying to spank me, because our parents didn't know any better.
Yeah, that's all they did.
But I think none of the tools that we talk about work when the parent isn't controlling themselves. Mm-hmm. Like nothing works, and this is really the model we want to teach our kids is self-control. Yeah. And when you are out of control in society, someone's coming to help you with that. Can you get yourself under control, or would you like my help?
Yeah. I won't say anything because I'll go on another rant, but it's good. Good point.
It's true.
It's true.
And in your job, everywhere you go.
If you run down naked on the freeway, someone's coming to help you.
Or at Bethel Church. That's happened. We'll get some help for you. Sorry, Bethel Church. But it's true. I mean, an out of control person is not fun to be around. Mm-hmm. And as parents, we let these little things sometimes, and they can feel big, but we let those things begin to control us, and then we lose self-control trying to teach this child how to act and respond and live. And it just doesn't translate. And I think that's a lot of the pain is parents for years lived out of control trying to teach their kids something, and they taught them something. Yeah,
I mean, your kids are mirroring you. So if they're out of control, you're likely not very in control. If your kids got a sassy, disrespectful mouth that gets away with it, you might be that, or you might have no boundaries. So they're like, oh, there's no boundaries. I get to just do whatever I want. So, I love kind of asking the question, especially when our kids do something that I'm like, that doesn't feel good. And we're around our friends or my coworkers. I ask them, how was that for you? Yeah. Because I want to make sure that the experience of the people that my kids are around is pleasant. Yeah. Because that's great feedback for my kids of, oh, you're not fun to be around. And if you're not fun to be around and you don't ever learn and hear that feedback and you just keep growing up, you're going to keep being no fun to be around, which ultimately leads to them being rejected. Which why would I want to ever do that? So I'm checking in, and we ask questions anytime, and I trust that the people that are closest to us get to give that same feedback of, that wasn't very fun. Oh, okay, good feedback. Yeah. We've got a mess to clean up.
Which that's hard for a lot of parents to hear. That my child was...
Without being super defensive.
The experience with your child was unpleasant. For a parent to hear that is hard for a lot of parents. And what do you think it is real quick? Let's just pause here for a minute, and we'll land this plane and let people go talk about it.
I think a lot of times it's personal reflection on me, my identity, my capabilities as a parent, my skill level. So, I mean, if my kid picks their nose and eats their booger, does that mean that I'm a bad parent? They're 3.
Maybe they're hungry, but
maybe I'm not feeding them enough chicken nuggets. But I think this is the part where everything our child does is a direct reflection onto my identity.
Yes.
Oh, there's a broken system. So I need to be willing to separate that my child's behavior maybe is an indicator of something that needs to adjust. Or maybe it's something that, here's a great learning opportunity. Let's welcome in some practice feedback. I want to teach my kids how to receive feedback because the world is full of feedback. And a lot of people do it horribly. Mm-hmm. And I want to teach them, how do you receive what is valuable and what we should look at in this huge blanket of horrible feedback. What is the truth that I should actually, because I do get to control that piece. And I want them to learn that just because someone says that I think you're an awful person doesn't mean it's true. All right. Well, that exchange probably didn't feel very good. Why didn't it feel very good? Oh, you said that. Oh, so out of their comment of you're a horrible person, what could you learn and adjust? I want to teach them that. And I want to have opportunities where, my kid didn't have a very fun time. Like we got a situation, Addie, and walking through with our school, there's a young boy who doesn't say very nice things. And, he's got some stuff going on, which is fine. But I'm going to teach Addie, how do we give feedback to this kid? And I'm trying to empower her. We're doing a great job empowering her to give feedback, to practice this, because we're practicing loving people, speaking the truth in love, giving feedback. And he's not getting it. Yeah. So then my job, our job, I started the email is, hey, just want to let you know, this is the experience we're having. We want this kid to be successful. We know what's going on. We have value for him. I don't want this to continue. Yep. What can we do?
How can we help?
How can we help her be successful when she's not been able to find success when we were practicing having brave communication? And it's, we're not trying to punish this kid, throw him out to the sharks. And that's not the goal. The goal is can we give some feedback and have adjustment? If not, then what's the solution?
Yeah. Because nothing changes without healthy, helpful feedback.
And I don't look at this kid and go, oh, his mother's awful.
Yeah.
He has horrible parents.
Yeah.
I look at this kid and go, man, we got to give you some good feedback and see if you can adjust. Yeah. And if you can't, then we're going to change, because that's the good feedback to us. You are not willing to adjust. Okay, what can we do differently? Because we're powerful people.
So just to end right here, this last thought, as we were talking, I was thinking about this, but our model for parenting is God.
Yeah.
The best father ever was. And I think I was just sitting there thinking as you're talking, his identity is never challenged.
I'm so glad that he's not rattled by my behavior.
By our mistakes, our behavior, our bad days.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a lesson there as well as parents. Like, okay, I'm insecure. I'm a human. There's all those things going on. But where do I find that security in him to where I can practice that model for my kid's sake? Mm-hmm. To where I'm not thrown off because you had a bad day.
Yeah.
I can still bring strength. So that's what we're doing. There are some questions we're answering from the conference on the podcast here. Mm-hmm. Very fun.
It was great.
All right. Till next time.
Mm-hmm.